Welcome back. David Hertel in for Elias. The Montreal Police Hate Crime Unit is investigating vandalism at a Jewish school in the West Island. It happened at the Hebrew Foundation School next to the Beth Tikva Synagogue in Dollard. A video following the crime surfaced online, and in that video, which appeared to have been shot by the perpetrators, it showed Israeli flags being taken from the school and burned. The suspects of this hate crime have since been arrested. Joining me now is Ita Yudin, Vice President of the Center for Israel and Jewish Affairs. Welcome back to the show, Ita.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. So, what do you know about this hate crime other than what I just described?
I think it almost speaks for itself unless you've seen the video, the background music, the shocking images. I mean, clearly this was something meant to send a message of hate, anti-Semitism, and meant to intimidate. And we're seeing a radicalization of young people taking on these kinds of activities, and that causes concern.
And this was clearly premeditated because this happened. Did this happen on the day of the 75th anniversary of Israel?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. The flags were taken in the afternoon. There were no kids in school at the time, but the school is clearly identified in the video, and the flag burning, I think, speaks for itself.
So I have to ask these very, very terrible questions, Ita. But this is not the first incident of its kind that we're going through here in Montreal, is it?
It's really not, and I have to speak to the excellent work of the Federation CJ Director of Community Security, the Community Security Network, and the collaboration with the SPVM that has led to solutions in every one of these cases. But this is about the third case, recent case of minors engaging in this kind of incident. And we're starting to see a trend. And, according to the last statistics of Stats Canada, the Jewish community of Canada remains the most targeted religious minority, with 55% of all religiously motivated hate crimes in Canada targeting the Jewish community. And we're roughly a bit less than 1% of the population.
When you mention minors, I mean the alleged perpetrators of this particular incident are 16-year-olds. This clearly, they weren't born hating Jews. I mean, what's going on here? What does it say about our community that leads kids to perpetrate these kinds of horrific actions? What are we witnessing here?
I think it speaks to almost an urgent need to ensure that there is anti-Semitism and Holocaust education included in anti-hate and anti-racism initiatives, that the Jewish lived experience is understood. Last week, I think it was about a week ago, we saw the SPVM also reach out to the public for help in finding the assailants of two Hasidic men walking in Outremont who were attacked, and they found the suspect in that case as well. And in that one, too, we're looking at a minor. So this is something that needs to be addressed. We've called for anti-Semitism education to be a part of all anti-hate and anti-racism initiatives in schools, but I think it extends beyond schools. We've called for mandatory Holocaust education, not just to understand that the Holocaust happened, but the context that led to it, because I think that's what we're talking about now. We're talking about, people need to understand that words and actions have consequences, and hiding behind social media to intimidate or thinking that individuals walking in the streets are targets is not acceptable. And I think there's an education piece that we need to focus on to ensure that the province we love and the place that we live in does not go in that direction.
Now, I totally understand and agree with the education piece, but on the other hand, now if you look at these kids that already have been indoctrinated into this way of hate, I mean, yes, there's the criminal aspect, and there has to be punishment, and it's right that there is an investigation. There might be prosecutions on this, but how do we turn these kids around? How do we get them to stop this progression?
That's an excellent question, David. And, I think there are multiple approaches. There are groups that specialize in dealing with radicalized youth, and I think they need our support and they need to be active. I'm thinking like the Centre pour la prévention de la radicalisation, the CPRMV. But I think that the biggest piece we need to look at it, and there are 3 incidents of recent memory, is that there are real consequences to those actions. The SPVM will take it seriously. These incidents are investigated as hate crimes, and we've seen 2 cases where there were real consequences on the assailants. The case of the 2 minors who attacked the man in 2021 who was walking down the street with an Israeli flag, they have real consequences in their final sentence. And so I think we have to ensure that when these cases come before the courts, that there's an understanding of, this is not just a case of vandalism. There's something else going on here, and it needs to be treated in that way. 2 Hasidic men walking down the street shouldn't have to fear for their safety.
Absolutely.
And the individual arrested in that case needs to face serious consequences. And as a society, we need to take these things seriously. Anti-Semitism is not just an issue for the Jewish community. It's an issue for all of us. And we have to work together to fight not just anti-Semitism, but all forms of racism.
Absolutely. And so I saw your reactions, CJ's reactions, your reactions on Twitter, amongst others. And of course, okay, so the entire political class, and rightly so, reacted in support of your denunciations. Anti-racism minister Skeet reacted, other ministers reacted. But beyond that, I mean, when you talk about education, of action, are there any types of conversations with the government, with Education Minister Drainville, for example, Christopher Skeet, other ministers, about what needs to be done to stop this, to quell this radicalization, as you call it?
So right now in Quebec, there is an optional curriculum on genocide education, and we've raised the issue, and we've called for that to become mandatory in high schools and for teachers to be trained to deliver that kind of education. This new course on citoyenneté needs to include sections that really explain the history, for example, of the Jewish community in Quebec and anti-Semitism as well, so people really understand the Jewish lived experience. Anti-Semitism is a big word. And, racism, everyone agrees that all of these things are wrong and bad. No one stands up for it, but it requires individuals to actually take action. And if there's one lesson there are many lessons we can draw from the Holocaust, but, relating to this conversation, that indifference is worse than anything, and one person can make a huge difference. If you look at someone like Raoul Wallenberg, who single-handedly saved thousands and thousands and thousands of Jews, if more people engage, because we know their hearts are there, we know that no one stands behind racism, but let's bring action behind that. Let's educate our children. Let's be the village that makes sure that our children all grow up in safety with a safe space, and that the messages that we're passing on to the next generations are ones that we can stand behind and be proud of.
Very strong message there. I think that one of the most important things you said, and you said many important things, Ita, is the fact that this is not a Jewish problem. This is all of our problem. All Quebecers need to be concerned about this and act on this. And so I really appreciate your work, your tireless work on this issue, and I thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you, David.
Ita Yudin, Vice President of the Center for Israel and Jewish Affairs.